signs and have gone in and torn the place down and put in their gardens. What COP said was the number of orangutans in the area, which was 600 individuals in 2004, has fallen to only 30 to 60 individuals at present due to massive destructions of the national park. Now, in fact, he's dead wrong, but somebody actually sent this out as an international press release, basically claiming that the whole of Kutai National Park, all 200,000 hectares, has only got 30 to 60 orangutans in it. You know, that kind of message could just wipe the whole place out. In fact, there is quite another view, which is the one we're coming across. Talking to the head of Kutai National Park, which is what I did when I went up to see about Pinky, he said no, that in fact there was lots of good forest left in there, that there were definitely orangutans there, and that they were open to having additional orangutan researchers come in. When you start looking around a little bit, other things about the area that are interesting are that, first of all, it's the site of some of the earliest and very important orangutan research that was done in Borneo early in the 1970s, before, pretty much at the same time, or in fact before Valdicus and Herman Wrightson. So very important seminal work done in the area. The fire damage is in fact patchy. The forest has now had 12 years to recover, and things grow pretty fast in the tropics, so you'll be amazed to see what's come back. There are lots of orangutans in the area, and they clearly need support. And in fact, the funny thing with all the industries around and all the encroachment and damage is that there's in fact a lot of support for helping orangutans in the area. There's even an organization called Friends of Kutai National Park, in which there are local NGOs, there are government agencies, there are local people, and even some of the corporations that dump money in to try and find better ways to support the park, and in particular for orangutans, how to do a better job for orangutans. So it's a place under siege, but the good thing is there's some stuff there that may be worth saving, and there's actually a community of people there, a big community of people, that seem to be dedicated to trying to do something good. So that's part of the good story that we see. This is a lovely little post built by an illegal logger by the name of Salad Durian. Turned out he had a major logging enterprise going on just upriver that we managed to close down. Yes. Well, the national park people did. I took pictures, you know. But I'm very glad they took confiscated goods, caught the guy, so good stuff. Then you go downriver, and one of the reasons the forest there may be not too bad is there are a lot of rapids. You maybe get a sense there that the water gets a little choppy along the way. Some we could go over, because it's a little adventure in here, you know, you got to get your adventure story in. Some of them they had to rope the boats down, and this last shot here was an attempt to rope a boat down at a place called Batu Guma, which translates into House of Rocks. Well known for tearing boats to pieces, and I kid you not, 15 minutes after I took that picture, the boat snapped in the middle like a matchstick. I've never seen anything like it. Everybody floated down the river. Good thing we had two boats. Okay. This is a bit what the forest looks like. In fact, we're going downstream, so this is looking at the public side of the river rather than the national park side, but it's not too different. And I don't know what your sense is, but it's pretty scrappy. You know, it doesn't look like a towering, majestic forest. At least it's green, but that's probably the best thing that you can say. And there's a lot of damage. Excuse me. This is, again, it's on the public side of the river, but here's a guy who's built himself a quarry for gravel right across from the national park. The river is only about 30 meters wide at this point. Adam, you remember this. So right across from the national park, you have a big road, you have lots of traffic coming, and you have people excavating and tearing things down. Okay. We also stopped and looked into the national park. We just didn't stay on the river. We went in to see what was going on. This was a second illegal loggers camp that we stopped at. So what happened is the national park people went in and confiscated all their equipment again, and here they're in the process of hacking apart the logs that they cut down so they're not marketable anymore. This is a cement post that the big coal mine built and put in the forest, right in the middle of the national park. So they must have been there 5 to 6 days to do it because they had to pour the concrete. They were in there exploring for coal. What they're doing in the national park, exploring for coal, is beyond me. But they clearly went in and were looking for the possibility of where they might dig and put another coal mine. This is a local hunter's trap, probably meant for small deer and other small animals. There's a little hole in the ground that's slightly covered and then a rope that'll grab up. And this one is a fire. Again, it's not within the national park, but right across the river. Again, this is one of Adam's pictures. It's right across the river from the national park. People are cutting, they were actually actively cutting down trees and burning them off while we were there this summer. So the forest on the public side of the river is going at an amazing rate, and it's very close to roads and very close to us. Yeah. There are some good things there. I have a research assistant who's a fabulous photographer, and he likes insects, so I can show you some pretty insect pictures. There are things in there I've never seen before. This banana butterfly, as far as I'm concerned. He's got this great, funny, big nose up the top. I've never heard of them before. I mean, I'm not a banana person. I'm not a butterfly person, but they're very, very unusual. And I think the park turns out to have a lot of endemic, a lot of very unusual flora and fauna. So there really are some amazing things in there if you just look for them. There are also great birds. This is one of the hornbills. Hornbills are some of the classic birds in Indonesia, in Borneo. There are all kinds of hornbills. This is one, I forget which one this is. And that's a cheap photo because I cut it out of the picture. But it was you gotta have fun. Okay. Anyway, there are lots of hornbills, so they're doing fine. On the small end, these are little honey eaters. There were quite a number of them around as well. And this is not really a snake, but I put it in to remind myself to tell you that I almost stepped on a reticulated python that was that big around and probably about 8 meters long. So yeah, I am still alive. So is the python. But the message is there's a lot of stuff in there. You may have to look a bit to find it. It's not a very noisy forest, but there are actually lots of species in there, so somehow they're managing to make it. We, of course, were interested in spotting orangutans, so we were watching along the river as we rode, and anytime we went into the forest to see whether we saw orangutans, and we went probably 20 or 30 kilometers along the river, we probably saw 5 or 6 orangutans, which I still figure is pretty good, because you rarely see them. So to actually bump into them with a noisy crew of loud Indonesians and a bunch of stupid Westerners, I mean, that's not too shabby. But we did, we saw 5 or 6, yeah. But mostly what you do when you're looking for orangutans is you look for their nests, because you rarely see it. You know, they know you're there before you know they're there, and they get out of the way. They're not interested in it, so they basically hide on you. But you can see their nest because the nest can't move, and there are 3 nests here. Can you see them? If you can't, that's where they are. The nice thing for us is we were going down the river, there were lots of nests. I mean, to us it looked like a lot of nests. You can't tell for sure until you do a systematic study and you calculate everything out. But we'd be going down the rivers and you'd be seeing lots of nests all the way along the river. There'd be spots where there weren't so many, but lots of places had lots of nests. So lots of orangutans are there. Not new nests, or not old nests, so orangutans recently. So that was good news. And where we ended up out of it all, after all of the surveys we did, is of all the areas we looked, we chose that little area up at the top as the place to work with, and I'll just show you what that's like. This actually is a map that we made off our own GPS recordings. So that's what you can do. You just turn your machine on and you get a map of where you are. It's an area we call Bendili. This is again the Sanata River here. This is the upriver part, so we've been coming down like this. It's this little peninsula where we decided to set ourselves down. There's a road right across, and this is the red quarry that I showed you a while ago, so that's roughly where you are. Seems like a bad place because the road is very close to the river here, so you'd think this is really dangerous. 2 reasons it's good. One is it means it's easier for us to get into town because we have to go in for supplies. And the second thing is this area of the park, this stretch of the national park, clearly needs protection because it's very vulnerable. So having a project there and a post means you've got somebody there who's watching, and it's likely to keep the poachers down. It's also very near Mentopo, the original site at which orangutan research was done. So in terms of trying to figure out what any information we collect means, we have a good comparison. What we find is at least comparable to what they found 30 years ago, and we can come up with some assessment of how things changed. The red thing here is a patrol trail that we cut while we were there along the edge of the river on purpose so that you can walk along the edge of the river and see how things are going. So it serves us for moving around, but it also serves the national park people in terms of finding or checking to see whether there's encroachment. Okay. And obviously the reason we chose this, well, 2 reasons we chose this area on top of the road and all that kind of stuff is this nice little peninsula. The good thing about it is water on 3 sides. And given the drought problems, if you've got water on 3 sides, this area is likely to have better vegetation than areas that don't. So it had good orangutan nesters, and a little river that comes into it from the top, so you're water fed.